All right, everybody, we got a very special guest for you all. I want everybody to welcome to the show Casey Allen. Welcome, Casey.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good,
Doing
man.
good.
I'm waiting for you to play a show for us with all your instruments.
No, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So I used to play music and be in a few bands, and
Okay.
nobody was really good, but we did it. And then you acquire all this shit, and
Yep.
then you have kids,
Yep.
and then you can't play music anymore because the kids are like, "That's too loud.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is too loud." So, what do? You start writing. You start writing comics.
Hell yeah. And
So
that
Yeah.
there you go. Bigfoot knows karate. And we've definitely talked about this book on the show before, but it's your first time on the show, so we're gonna. I love that. I love that cover.
that's our foil cover.
Foil, yes.
Yeah.
Foil all day.
Draw, erase, repeat.
Hell yeah.
Fantastic art. But yeah, you start writing comics. So.
And I guess that's the perfect segue for your origin story. Then give us the lowdown why you started writing comics, and then we're going to talk about Comic Jam after that. But
nice, yeah. So I loved comics as a kid up until like my mid-teens, and then I started playing music, and my love for comics didn't like die. It just was put on hold. Music became like my passion.
Yep.
And then I started working a job. I started working for a moving company.
Okay.
And the moving company was right down the street from a comic shop. And I had, for the first time in my life, I had like a little extra money. So I was just like, what about all those comics that I wanted to read when I was a kid? I just didn't think I would, could get to, because I live in Alabama. There's not a ton of comic shops around. What I could get was off of the spinner rack.
Yep.
But I would see all of these comics in Wizard, which was a thing back in the late 90s.
Yep.
Wizard magazine, it was great. And it was all these comics that I did not have access to.
Right.
Well, I worked down the road from a comic shop. I would go there after work. And let me tell you, these guys, they would be LARPing out in the parking lot, which sounds awesome. It sounds super fun. But when you work with a lot of jocks,
oh yeah,
and they see a bunch of kids dressed up with like capes and like foam swords and shit, it was a whole lot of like, leaning out of the truck as we're driving past them and yelling nerds and not me, but so I walked in with my work shirt on and they're like, "Whoa, we don't want any trouble."
Yeah.
And I
don't wreck the place, please.
I just want to revisit my childhood. So I started reading The Sandman. That was a comic that I always wanted to read. I never got a chance to read it. And then I started kind of backtracking and going and, reading The Watchmen and, all the stuff that, you probably should read if you're, if you want to know a little bit about comics or at least the progress of comics through time. So I started reading all that. And then I kind of got the idea of like, is there a way for me to learn how to write? And I found this group on Reddit called the Comic Jam. And at the time it was Weekly Comics Collab. The challenge was to do a one-piece comic, one-page comic. So they would pair artists and writers. Eventually the head of that kind of got too busy and I took over. So each week we get artists and writers. Everybody votes on a theme. We say, hey, writers, write one page, 6 panel stops based on this theme. And then the next week I pair that script up with an available artist. And then the artist's done. And then we pair it up with a letterer. And at the end of it, we publish the comic on our website, www.thecomicjam.com or hpppt, blah, 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 blah,
yeah, right.
In case anybody doesn't know.
Yeah.
And then, so it's super fun. It's a great workshop. It's a great way to learn like the basics and kind of learn the ropes. And I ended up meeting folks that wanted to collaborate on larger items, on larger comics. And so I started writing a book called Voodoo Child with a guy named Pete Woods. Pete Woods is an artist out of England. He's not the American artist Pete Woods who does Iron Man and all that shit.
Yeah.
But he is a fantastic artist out of England. And we started a series called Voodoo Child. And we've done 2 issues of that. We have 5 planned. And then I ended up meeting Dan Price, who is the creator of the Bigfoot Knows Karate character. And ostensibly the idea was for me to edit. I was just going to edit. And I kept coming up with ideas like, Dan had a freaking binder of ideas of things he wanted to do. He had a roadmap, but I kept noticing like a few things here and there that needed clarification, things that were missing. And eventually I was like, you need a villain for this first issue. It can't just be, this Bigfoot on his inner quest.
Yeah. Right.
We need some action. We can't just have him fighting, hunters.
Yeah.
And that's where I came up with the idea of Kung Fu Thulu. And as soon as I said the name, it was issue 1. Dan was like, give me a little while. And then, the next day in my inbox, there was a drawing of our villain from issue 1, Kung Fu Thulu.
Yes.
And after that, it was on.
Yeah.
So I started co-writing with them. We bounce them back and forth. Every afternoon when I get home, I'll walk the dogs, and that's where I do most of my writing. We have a path out in the woods. I live out in about 30 minutes outside of Birmingham, Alabama. We have a lot of woods behind our house, and I'll walk the dogs out behind the house and write the stories.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's just a fun way to kind of slow down and just, nobody's talking, nobody's bothering you. You just kind of a little bit of peace and quiet. And then, ideas start happening. And so that's how things happen. And then I'll call Dan and we'll just kind of bounce the ideas around. So
that's awesome. And you guys had a successful Kickstarter for the first issue. I remember when that came out.
Absolutely. Issues 1 and 2 were
1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Like right away we funded. And so with this issue, which is a one-off.
Yeah. It's a one shot, right?
Yeah. It's the art, the cover and the interior art are done by Adam Caswell, who did the alt cover for issues 1 and 2. And Adam is, just a super talented guy that loves drawing tiny lines. And
oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's Adam's cover right there for the Hinagon.
Yep.
And yeah, he's just a fantastic guy, super talented. And we wanted to find a reason. That's by Dennis Valencia, that cover right there. We wanted to find a way to keep Adam around to do stories with us. And with this character, there's so much that we can kind of pull from, so many directions we can go. And isn't it kind of fun to kind of, play in between those spaces?
Right.
And so I kind of liken it to in the late 90s, there was a series called The Untold Tales of Spider-Man, which was, the stories between the issues.
Yep.
And I really loved it because, it's not, there's no way that they have every single thing that happens to Peter Parker. That's insane. I'm sure there are things that happen all the time. And interesting things too. So this is one of those things. And with this story, my goal was to give Adam a big sandbox to play in. B, tell a story that's unique to the character and just make it super fun for the reader. The first thing that goes through my mind is somebody's going to be paying for this. and we want it to be worth it. So my goal is to, to write a super entertaining story. Um, and, with Bigfoot Knows Karate, I think my favorite thing about it is that ostensibly, it's a punch 'em up, right?
Yeah, right.
You hear the name, you're like, oh, that just sounds like a Bigfoot that does karate.
Mhm.
And yes, you would be right. However, there's a lot more to it. And I think that's one thing that has kept people buying the comics, is that it's not just, a Bigfoot, whipping ass or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a backstory to it. There's ulterior motives. There's a ton of different characters, and they all have their thing going on. So I think that if we're able to do that and keep it fun and interesting and entertaining, that if it was just to punch them up, that's kind of a one-trick pony, right?
Right.
You don't want to just read a comic where it's just two big guys, beating the shit out of each other. I mean, you might,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I mean, it's not really stimulating outside of like, oh wow, that guy really hit that guy. They
Yeah.
do not like each other at all.
Let's say, Mike, you got a comment about that one?
Yeah, I know. I do like punch 'em ups just for the fact where I can shut my brain off and not have to think about it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing yells clobber in time. He beats the shit out of the Hulk, and then at the end of it, they shake and go about their merry way.
Right.
But they're if that happened all the time, and instead of like a limited series or whatever, it would get old.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was my goal, was to kind of do just a fun punch 'em up, and but make it mean something.
Mhm.
And if you have been reading the comic, it's going to help inform the series a little bit. But if you haven't been reading the series at all, you're just going to see like, oh, this is just a fun ass comic with a Bigfoot beating the shit out of water dragon beating the shit out of Bigfoot, and then other stuff happens, and that shit is cool. Like, rule of cool at the end of the day is, that's what keeps comics alive, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why Ghost Rider can speak without lips, and that's why the Thing can get punched in the face and have clumps come off without being completely disfigured. And
it's the comic book science of it.
That's why we've been talking about this new Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong book, and it's like, I don't need to know anything about that. I just need to know that it's Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah,
it's just rad.
Yeah, they're just right.
I immediately, like, we're flipping through the art on, if you're watching the video version, and the first thing that pops in my mind, like, you talk about the artist, does he ink his own work?
He does.
Okay, because I think it'd be cruel for him to hand this over to an inker.
Oh, absolutely. He's an insane person. He really is. He's in Maine, and I just know it's cold and harsh, and he's out in the woods with a tiny ink pen, just going nuts. And we've had to tell him a few times, like, hey man, pump the brakes. We don't need to see the boogers in Bigfoot's nose. Just, because he's all about the detail. He loves detail.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, this page here.
The amount of lines there is just crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like, at times, where was it? There was this page up here. Like, this gives me like kind of Eastman vibes.
Oh yeah.
A much more detailed than Eastman does, but like with how he uses lines and everything. But then you come down to like these two, and it's almost like Gary Frank-esque, and like the line detail and how much he puts into it.
Yeah. And one thing that I tried to do when I was writing this, because we had him, this was ostensibly written for him to illustrate. We wanted his art. We wanted this to be a means to showcase his art. And it was, like, oh, I need to basically give him a reason to draw some jaw-dropping panels. Like there was an issue of Thor where Walt Simonson kind of did, it was all splash pages. And initially I was gonna attempt that, but I'm not Walt Simonson. I'm not a writer of that caliber, so I wouldn't know how to make it work. But the goal was still kind of the same, like make every page a showcase. And a lot of these pages, we have a term that we use when we're doing the book. We call it wall pages, where it's, oh, I would hang that on my wall. That looks like something that's art. That's just not a comic page. That's art.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like out of these, like that page right there that's the water dragon, right?
yes.
That
Mizuki.
And this one with just Bigfoot. Those are posters. They're prints. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Look at those big old Bigfoot titties, man.
Yeah, I know.
You want that on your wall?
Yeah, he's been doing push-ups.
Yeah, dude is ripped.
he needs to crunch a little more. He's only got a 4-pack going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a few more crunches.
You know, some people, I was reading about that. Not that I'm ever going to have abs again, like unless something drastic happens.
Yeah.
But like some people, I think just have like 4. Like a 6-pack is just not physically feasible.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, he's jacked. He's jacked.
I always think of this might be out of your league. I don't know if you're into football or anything, but I always think of DK Metcalf.
Oh
You
yeah,
ever
yeah,
seen
yeah.
the picture of him without shirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dude's got a freaking
Swole.
like 26-pack.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's
it's
how it goes.
ridiculous.
Yeah, when your job's to work out all the time. I mean, you know, Bigfoot's got to fight some people, so he doesn't have time to work out all the time. I like what you did doing a one shot. You know, fighting a different, or like the story takes place like in the middle of 1 and 2, or like before.
No, this actually takes place in feudal Japan, because like our character, like the fun thing about it, he's been around, like he's been around since, you know, the dawn of time.
Right.
And so we can, and the story kind of spans that. In issue 2, we get a glimpse of I notice I'm talking with my hands a lot. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I do all the time.
Yeah.
In issue 2, he is there's a page that kind of shows like him through time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look real close, there's him in his like samurai outfit. He was around in ancient Greece. He was, you know, so and also there was a scene in issue 2 where the Minotaur is fighting him, and he starts just kind of naming off the people that that Benny, the Bigfoot character, had killed that were friends of his.
Mm-hmm.
And so that guy right there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And it's we kind of had to do our homework on, you know, Greek mythology and stuff like that. It was super fun, kind of going back and learning about like cryptids and other like mythological creatures. So we, at the same time though, we didn't want to go too hard with that and go like, oh, you know, this is Bigfoot does karate. Well, this is, you know, a Jersey Devil that does Krav Maga or something.
Oh yeah,
like
you
that,
don't want to make it like too wonky. Like
after a while, it's just kind of like cheesy, and you don't want to
fucking
go too hard in the cheese.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So, however, we do have a chupacabra with a shotgun.
Oh,
because and we had so much fun with that. I love that character, I really do, and I've had so much fun just kind of go like I have plans for him if we can get to it. So yeah, I don't want to say too much, but
that's awesome.
But I know we're focused on this issue and what's going on, but I did have a question moving forward.
Yeah, certainly.
is when is Bigfoot going to team up with Sheep Squash?
Oh my
The
god!
fuck is sheep squash?
You had to mention
Oh.
you mentioned cryptids, dude, and this is like the one
Well, I'm
cryptid.
glad you asked.
There we go.
Oh, please
Sheep
tell me. Please tell
Squash.
me what. Holy smokes!
This bastard right here. Let's see. He's known as the White Thing. Is a woolly-haired cryptid reported across numerous counties in Western Virginia.
So there's an Alabama white thing, THANG.
Really?
Yes, yes.
And just so everyone knows, Sheep Squatch showed up in the Fallout video games as well.
Wow.
So I have an 8-year-old who please look up Shirime, Shirime. My 8-year-old is fascinated with cryptids. Like she has a stuffed Mothman. She loves Mothman.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So there's a Japanese folklore called a Shirime, and she was talking about it in the car one day, and essentially it's a it's the Japanese butthole monster. He has an eye in his butthole. And,
that is amazing.
And she was like, "Could you put a Shirime in your comic?" And I was like, "I don't know. What's a Shirime?" And she's like, "It's this monster with a butthole in his eye, an eyeball in his butthole."
Oh
I was like,
my god.
I don't know.
What the hell?
Long ago, a samurai was walking at night down the road to Kyoto when he heard someone calling out for him to wait. "Who's there?" he asked nervously, only to turn around and find a man stripping off his clothes and pointing his bare buttocks at the flabbergasted traveler. A huge glittering eye then opened up where the strange man anus should have been.
This is like somebody just made this shit up on Wiki. Like, like I'll write an origin story here. There's a guy walking on a road and he met this other guy.
Okay, Mike,
hell?
you're the PC gamer here.
Yeah. Yeah.
On April 1st, 2023, the PC game Shrine: The Curse of Buttai was released.
Oh my god. Wow.
Yep. So my wife and I are terrified. You know how in horror movies there's like a trope of like, you know, there's a parent-teacher conference and the teacher's like, "Little Billy has been drawing
pictures."
Yeah, and they open up the file and it's like disturbing. Yeah. It's going to happen to us, and the teacher's going to open up a file and it's going to be Japanese butthole monsters. So
there it is. Oh my god.
Yeah.
What the hell?
There you go, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you. Lovely. Very lovely. I
So
gotta play this tonight. Have nightmares.
I'm so glad we're about to get taken off of YouTube.
If
$3 or $4.
Oh, $4.
I mean, that's a steal, man.
Yeah.
That's cheaper than like a prime energy drink.
Yeah, it really is. I should just play it tonight. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. So, God forbid you guys flip through a future issue of Bigfoot Knows Karate and you see a Japanese butthole monster. You can thank my 8-year-old.
All right, yeah. Back to the task at hand. We can only look at butthole monsters for so long, Chris. That's amazing.
Sorry, I got ADD. I'm easily distracted.
Yeah.
You bring up butthole monsters and I'm in.
Just for the listeners and the viewers, the Kickstarter campaign's going on right now. And I know you guys are already funded, right? But there's still, I mean, everybody should still be backing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna start adding like things to sweeten the deal when we get 4,000.
Okay.
Right now we're at 3092.
Okay.
But we have plans. We got big plans
for stretch goals and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. We have stretch goals. And right now, like, I mean, the digital edition is $4. We wanted you to be able to get it and check it out and read it. I think $4 is a fair price for a digital.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I've seen people charge 10. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And this is just a standard, like for the standard edition is 24 pages.
Mm-hmm.
For the deluxe edition, I think it's going to be, at least 10 more pages, because we have a bunch of fan art that we're going to publish in the back of it. So
that's cool.
One thing that is we were crazily not prepared for when we started this series was that people just like drawing Bigfoot knows karate.
Really?
Yeah, I mean so when I first came into the fold, I kept seeing Dan Price, who is the creator of the series.
Mm-hmm.
I kept seeing him draw these pictures of this Bigfoot doing, karate poses or whatever, and I was like, "What is this?" And when are you going to get started on an actual book? And he was like, I'm tossing ideas around, and his forte was really like comedy and satire, and he was kind of tossing it around. He couldn't make it fit, and he was like, you know what? I want to do something that isn't really in my wheelhouse. And we described the first few issues as Bigfoot Knows Karate is a combination of Godzilla versus Kong and Kill Bill. And I think it's a nice marriage between those.
Okay.
Surprisingly less foot fetish stuff than Kill Bill had.
Kill Bill did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we, that the whole thing was just a marriage of those two influences.
Awesome.
Well, it's funny. I remember when I talked to Dan, I think it was for issue 1, we had him on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I brought up was I thought his art had a very Samurai Jack influence to it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he told me that he did not enjoy that show, or he didn't watch that show, or something like that.
Well, see, the thing about Dan and I are like Dan is, I think, is 45, 46.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 41. We didn't grow up with that around us.
Oh, okay.
And then we had somebody do some fan art. Speaking of fan art, they did a mashup of Bigfoot Knows Karate with Samurai Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because you said that, and then we saw the fan art, and we're like, holy crap, okay.
Yeah.
It's when I see something like that, and when I hear comparisons, I'm like, that's cool. I'm never going to watch that because I don't want it to influence where we go. And I surely don't want to, kind of unconsciously like drift off in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we try to keep it original. We try to keep it, we have influences, but I don't want those influences to soak into to the story.
Right.
So,
yeah. Right. But I think where I was going with that was because of that art style, and especially, so I'm a little bit younger than you, but that I line up perfectly with that show where I grew up watching that show. And that's also same person, same creator did Powerpuff Girls, which I'm sure you know that show as well. So that art style and everything, it just fits really well with our age group. And not to say his art is simplistic, but his design is fairly simplistic for Bigfoot.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really, that's actually perfect because then people can do fan art like that very easily.
Right.
And create these cool things. So that's probably is a big part of it, that his style and how he designed Bigfoot lends itself to people trying to do fan art.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like, so Dan's artwork, so he does everything digitally.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that he does it without a stylus and instead like with his finger on the screen like this, I'm not shitting you. I love watching him work. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
And he, like, I've seen other things that he's done with like completely different styles, and it breaks my brain how he can kind of veer from one style of art to another and keep it consistent. So it's really fun seeing what he chooses to do and how he goes about it in the main series. And one thing that we want to do, if Bigfoot Knows Karate Hinagon is as successful as we want it to be. In between each issue of the main series, because Dan and I both work, we both have jobs. I work in the medical industry. Mm-hmm. He works for a magazine. So he's a graphic designer by trade. So in between those issues, I'm going to be doing stories with other artists. And as folks that we want to see get out there, mm-hmm. like folks that we think need to be noticed. Adam Caswell, the artist on Hinagon, is definitely one of those guys. We're like, holy shit, this guy is super talented. He needs to be seen. There's what is it? I think it's from Ecclesiastes. It's like, don't hide your light under a bushel. Like, don't, hide your talent. We want folks to be seen. Also, like, there's no biblical take on Bigfoot Knows Karate. I just want
yeah. Right. Exactly. Yep.
Well, let's go through all your tiers. So we talked a little bit. You got the digital edition here. You can get the regular print comic cover. You've got a digital catch-up tier.
Yes. Yeah, and that shit's rad, dude. You can look at all of the Bigfoot books and Hinagon for only $12. Like, that
is awesome.
Fucking do that shit. That's rad.
Yeah.
Andy Bloor did a deluxe cover. That's $15. Andy Bloor is a super talented artist from Merry Old England. And when I say that he sweated on getting this cover right to his specifications, he sent us about 4 different takes on the Hinagon cover. And he's like, what about this one? And he'd be like, oh, I hate this. And it was gold. It was gold. Yeah. And he was like, I'll be right back. And he'd send us another one. And so he is super hard on himself as an artist, which I think is kind of embedded into the brain of an artist. Pages aren't completed as much as they're abandoned because they're exhausted. These people go to work every day and bang their head up against a wall, trying to pass through. And sometimes they do, but a lot of the time they're just like, it's a thick fucking wall. Yeah, my head hurts. Yeah, this is done. So yeah, Andy Bloor is a super talent, and I love this cover.
It's also, I think, important to mention. Yeah, it's a little more expensive for the variant cover here, but it is the deluxe edition, and you're also getting mini prints with it as well, which I don't think you were getting with. Yeah, you're not getting with the regular cover. So
yeah.
You're getting extras as well. You're not just paying more for a variant.
Absolutely, and we've done some super cool extras in the past, like stickers and bookmarks and just fun stuff like that. I don't know how well you can see that.
Yep. That's sick.
So we love doing stuff like that. And if y'all don't get them, here's what's going to happen. My $2 will put the Bigfoot Knows Karate stickers and buttons on their book bags and on their water bottles. So get them before my kids get them. That's what I'm saying.
That's awesome.
You've got a blank variant here. Pretty standard. I mean, a lot of places do blank variant.
Yep.
I think the early bird stuff's done by the time this goes out. Another
deluxe foil edition.
Great. Nice. That you showed earlier. You have sitting next to you. Who did that cover?
That is Dennis Valencia. Dennis Valencia is a super talent. He is flipping amazing. Go out, Dr. Valencia on Instagram. Track his stuff down because he is just bonkers good. Yeah.
And it's awesome. Gold foil, so it's shiny.
Oh yeah, very shiny.
Man, yeah, it's not microwave safe. So, God forbid you want to heat up your nachos from takeout or whatever. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But if you want a microwave safe comic, just get any other version. But that one,
don't
microwave safe.
Physical catch-up tier, pretty standard.
Yes.
All the covers we got there. Yep.
Can I say something about the physical catch-up tier?
Yeah.
Specifically, like, so Dan, I mentioned before, Dan works for a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Dan is freaking super knowledgeable about not only, what goes inside a comic, but presentation and the tactile feeling of a comic. And when I say that, pulling these comics out and reading them is a treat, I'm not being silly. It's he makes sure that the paper's right. Everything is, he sweats over it. He really stresses out over it. And then at the end of it, we know that we're putting out a fantastic product. So if you're into the tactile feel of reading a comic, you're not going to be let down. I remember a few weeks ago, my wife ordered not a comic, a book.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't read comics. She doesn't even read my comics, but she was reading a book and she was like, I fucking hate this book. I was like, why? She was like, the paper feels like garbage. And I was like, that is a weird thing to be hung up on.
Right.
But then she handed it to me. I was like, oh, I get it. I totally get it.
It feels like crap.
So yeah. So you don't want something that feels gross in your hands.
Right.
This one, I mean, you could put it in the microwave, heat up your food, and it doesn't feel gross. If you have any other uses for a comic,
I would take the staples out first, though, guys.
Yeah, take the staples out. Absolutely. Good.
Just a disclaimer.
Good idea.
Take the staples out first.
Got a retailer pack.
Sketch commission.
Commission. Who's doing the sketch?
So, let's see. It's either Dan or
Adam.
No, that's Adam. Adam Caswell. Yeah.
Yep.
Adam Caswell. Again, the interior artist is doing the sketch covers. And again, he is a madman. So you're going to get over $100 worth of art because he doesn't know when to stop, and we'll physically have to restrain him to get him away from your cover if you get the physical sketch cover.
Somebody out there that has more money than me, do this and make him do the butthole monster, because I want to see him do the butthole monster.
He'll do it too. He'll do it.
That's
he loves adding in things. This tier right here, the 165 lesser known comics physical starter pack. If you guys are unfamiliar with lesser known comics, they are a comics imprint that is just a bunch of guys like Dan and myself that are doing things independently. And some of the most talented indie creators out there. And they have a ton of great books. So if you ever want to check out lesserknowncomics.com, you can buy past issues of Bigfoot Knows Karate. Eventually you'll be able to get Hinagon on there. But they also have a ton of their own comics. And these guys are super good. If you buy this starter pack, you're going to get more than $165 worth of value, because we've actually had a few people take us up on this offer. It's really good.
That's awesome.
Can I ask you though? I saw when I was going through this earlier, I saw this, and this one jumped out to me. Not just because a lot of books and a lot of different creators and everything here. Why no digital version of this?
I don't know. We should probably think about that, huh?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be in on the next Kickstarter we do, because that is a good idea.
There you go. For mostly digital people like me, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking,
run out of space.
Yeah, I don't have space right now. Well, make a new space, but yeah.
I'm just thinking there's a ton of digital people, and even with some of these, I'll do a few Kickstarter things and just do digital, even though I'm more of a physical, just because space, like Mike said, like there's so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if it's something like this where I'm not sure about them, and I would assume it'd be a little bit cheaper digitally too. It's a cool way to check out a bunch of different stuff.
But then you got the best thing right at the bottom there, Chris, the wrestling
championship belt.
The championship belt.
Somebody has already gotten that belt.
Yeah, I figured.
We had I thought it was just gonna go nowhere. I have another person who's messaged me saying think I'm gonna get that belt. I'm like, get the belt. Get the belt. Get it.
That's awesome.
So here's the deal. I thought Dan was a nutbag for ordering a Bigfoot Does Karate wrestling belt.
Yeah.
And he's taken it to conventions with him. And
it's amazing.
Folks like the belt, man. They want to get a picture in the belt.
Yeah.
So he decided to offer it as a tier. And it cracks me up because people are into it. So
it's awesome. It's really awesome. That's like so
it's
unique.
A nice looking belt, man.
It is. It came out great with the art on there and everything.
Yeah. I mean, you could not have asked for a better looking comic book belt.
Comic book wrestling belt. Yeah.
It does come signed as well. Are you signing it, or is it just Dan?
It'll be Dan. It'll be Dan.
Yeah.
See, Dan is out in Austin, Texas. And
I
am out in the wild wilderness of Alabama.
Yeah.
North Central Alabama.
I like here too that, I mean, yeah, it's the belt and it's, you know, it's the pricey tier, but you throw in all the covers,
books. Yeah, you're still
all the prints, everything with it. Like it's not just the belt and like the A cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not gonna let you go home with just the belt. Like we want you to we want you to read the book. We want you to like
we don't want you to just have a wrestling belt for a
exactly. And there are a few tiers we have where it's like you have like the foil edition, and then we'll send a regular edition with it, because you know we know some people are super picky about their comics, and you know they're like, oh, I don't want this to get dented up or whatever. Well, you know, we give you the standard edition as well.
Nice.
I'm totally not a collector as much as I'm like, I like to read them.
Right. Exactly.
So
awesome. I think all those tiers are really, really cool. I mean, you guys are already funded, but there's still like almost a month left. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we funded fairly quickly. And we want to keep this party going. We want to get folks jazzed about the series. And I think this is a good entry point to kind of see what we're capable of.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, if they like the character, if they like what's happening, this series isn't going to be a shock to them. This, you know, cause they'll have read the Hinagon and go like, oh, like this guy's been around.
Yeah.
So,
and awesome. you mentioned earlier, just one last thing, that if you hit 4,000, there was like a stretch goal in mind. Have you hit any of the stretch goals yet? And where does that begin for you? Is it the 4,000?
I believe it's 4,000. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll have to talk with Dan about it. I think we're planning on 4,000. It might be something smaller than that, like 3,500. But with our past Kickstarter campaigns we've done, we've reached like several goals, and like the pins that we did, I was super pleased with how those turned out.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like just a round pin with Benny on it. And let's see if I can.
Oh yeah, you can see it. Cool.
I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah, that did come out pretty cool.
And we actually have T-shirts with that logo on there.
That's
One
awesome.
thing about Benny is that if he gets hit, like we didn't want it to be where like it magically disappears the next issue or like 3 panels later.
He's still got the marks.
We want him to get scarred up. We want him to get hurt.
Yeah.
And because I think that stuff matters. And to me, it's fun just seeing how like he's kind of our guy to just get to fuck up till the end of the series.
He's
like,
the punching bag.
Exactly. I hope I never meet him in person because he'll be pissed at me.
Yeah. What'd you do to my face, dude?
Yeah.
Awesome. Casey, this is great. You know, Bigfoot Knows Karate on Kickstarter right now. And if we want to send our listeners, viewers to follow you or any social medias you got going on, where can we send them for that?
So I have the dumbest handle on the planet because I never Yeah, I never considered that anyone might want to look me up. And so my my handle I based on my ideas of mid-aughts indie rock, which was Robots Eat Guitar. Wow. So because everybody was kind of going into like, grimy, almost dancey indie rock.
Yep.
With like DFA and bands like that, bands on that label. So Robots Eat Guitar. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on fucking X.
Whatever it's called. Yeah.
Edgelord ass site. Fuck that guy. I hate him so bad. So I'm on there. I'm on Blue Sky, which is, hopefully it's building up. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but really that's just me posting pictures about my family and being a dad, and that's how I look to see who is fatter than me from high school. Like that's really it.
That's the real use.
Yeah. Like I post pictures of me and my family, and I'm like, oh wow, his wife is really hot for him to be such a big sack of shit. But
that's awesome.
So that's where it's at. Yeah. I'm on Threads, whatever fucking joke ass site that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that even still around? Who knows?
I mean, it is, and I've been trying to update it, but I mean, it's like, I don't know. It might catch on.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, one day. Yeah, but I'm waiting around for the eventual death of Twitter because there's so many gross things happening on there.
Yeah.
I'll give you my feelings on that afterwards. But everybody, make sure you go follow Casey on all the social medias. And as you know, look in the show notes for the links to all the websites we talked about. But most importantly, the Kickstarter campaign.
Absolutely.
Go check out Bigfoot Knows Karate. Casey, thanks so much for stopping by and chatting with us. It was a blast.
Man, thank you so much for having me. Also, can I say one more thing? Thecomicjam.com. We're always looking for folks that might want to learn about comics, might want to learn about making comics. Come on. Send us a message via our social media. We are on X and, Facebook and Instagram. So hit us up there. I'll eventually have a Blue Sky set up. But we love making comics. We love learning about comics, and it's just good people. I try to make it so that if anybody comes in and they're like an asshole, like I'm the only asshole allowed in the comic game.
There you go.
I will boot you out with a heartbeat if you say awful things. So
yep, good.
And that link will also be in the show notes, so make sure to check it out.
Thank you guys so much, man.
Yeah,
Chris, I hope you get to feeling better, buddy.